And we'll start with Bob Berger. He's the Senior VP of Customer Solution at GrayMeta. And he's going to tell us all about SAMMA. Bob?
Hello. Good afternoon. Hi, can you guys hear me okay? So I just wanted to start off by saying that we had proposed and intended to do a demonstration of our system in which we would invite a volunteer from the crowd to come up and migrate some videotape while we talked about that process. As it turns out, it's not very easy to get that system onto this stage in under 15 minutes to do that. So afterwards, I invite you to come by our table so that you can actually see how this works yourself, because it's set up over there and it's migrating videotape. Instead of getting up here and doing a live demonstration of SAMMA, I just want to take you all very quickly through what this system is and what its advantages are, and a little bit about its history. Does that make sense? And of course, if you have any questions, feel free, raise your hand, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. So the SAMMA system was originally invented around 2004, 2005 by a gentleman named Jim Lindner for the Library of Congress in the United States. Some of you guys are nodding. I know you guys know him. And SAMMA Systems, the company, was born. And then over the years, sorry about the ringing, over the years, that system went through a number of different shepherds, shall I say. The SAMMA Systems Company, Front Porch Digital, Oracle, and then ultimately to its home currently with GrayMeta. As it turns out, GrayMeta is the original development team of SAMMA from back in 2006. The CTO, Qilong Sang, is the guy who originally wrote that software, and I've been supporting SAMMA ever since then, globally. So, the real question is, I have millions of videotapes, what do I do? And really, back to the genesis of the origination of the SAMMA system, the problem is, and always has been, that originally there weren't enough qualified engineers to take care of the massive amount of media in storage in the same way, treating each item efficiently, but also with the same level of quality. And so the system was originally designed to figure out a way to take that expertise and extend it across operators who might not be expert engineers, to build a system that focuses on process, which is why we came up with the name SAMMA. It is a system. And the key to this is system. Historically, the system has been agnostic with respect to what deck or what encoder, but rather to think about migrating videotape in a systematic approach. So, as I said, SAMMA, the System for the Automated Migration of Media Assets, won some technical Emmys back in the day. What we're using is advanced signal processing to take the analog or digital video and analog and digital audio and other sources like longitudinal timecode, and take those into our system and process them and send them to encoders that our system is controlling. And at the same time, be able to feed back intelligence about those signals to our system so that we can stop migrations when there are issues, or stop migrations when we detect that there are reasons to stop. So for example, if a tape is playing black for 10 minutes, is that an indication that we should stop that migration and call it a success? Like I said, we're agnostic with respect to encoders, and this is a system that, whether it was SAMMA or Front Porch or Oracle or GrayMeta, we sell that system. That system then becomes part of the customer's infrastructure. Maybe that customer is migrating content for their customers, or maybe that customer is an archive. But ultimately, the system is owned and operated, or it exists on your premise and is used by you. So in that case, you don't have to ship tapes, you don't have that risk, and we're preserving the content and the metadata, and extracting metadata and saving metadata along with that migration. Very simply, the structure of SAMMA is that the customer has a collection of videotape, and perhaps a database about that videotape. And the process is to export some metadata from that database, metadata that needs to be passed through the SAMMA system. It depends on the installation. Some customers have existing metadata about tapes that have not been digitized already in their MAM, and then a migrated asset becomes part of that record and is referenced by a tape ID or a file name downstream of SAMMA, or perhaps metadata is not part of a digital record and can be passed from a database export or manually entry into metadata that can then become part of the MAM downstream. The next step is what we call SAMMA prep, and SAMMA prep is actually a really important task where an operator examines the tape, validates that the metadata that came from an import or a record matches what's on the label or in the box, and performs a physical inspection, because one of the worst things that can happen, especially now, when decks themselves are really the fragile items that require preservation, you don't want to damage a deck with a tape that had a loose screw in it or a broken shell or something like that. So quick inspection and committing that record. And SAMMA prep can also print barcodes if there aren't barcodes, or this whole system can use existing barcodes. So we're printing barcodes, we're doing inspections and preparing tapes for migration. Once a tape has been prepared for migration, then either using robotics or manually, that tape can be scanned and migrated according to a bunch of settings that are templatized, so that every time you want to use this particular source and have a set of settings for the file outputs that you want, you choose that source, you choose that template, you press go, you enter your initials, and that takes over. Now, way back in 2004, this entire SAMMA product existed in a one-to-one relationship between SAMMA servers and VTRs. So a system that was going to migrate 4 VTRs involved 4 fairly expensive servers, each of them connected to a source. One of the biggest modernizations that's happened to SAMMA systems in the last 5-10 years is that nowadays a single SAMMA server can operate up to 8 sources. And instead of having analysis engines internally in a SAMMA server, now they're network devices. And encoders, same thing, they're network devices. So historically, SAMMA had a relationship with VTR, SAMMA Solo, and an analysis engine. Now it's 8. So the question of math, of how do I figure out what it costs to migrate my collection using this system, is actually very, very simple, because there's no high-speed dubbing in video, right? So if you have 100 videotapes that are an hour long, it will take you 100 hours to play them all. So the real question is, how many can you play at the same time? And what is the efficiency of that? So now we can easily calculate how long it takes to migrate a collection. Currently, we have an installation in New Jersey with a US broadcaster that is using 88 channels 24 hours a day to migrate 14 or 15,000 tapes a week, or 45,000 hours a month of content using the system. But that scales. You can have a 1-to-1 relationship, 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 8-to-1 is the different formats that we're talking about. A quick look at SAMMA Prep's interface. The design of the software is to be easy to use by anyone. Historically, in all of the installations that I've ever done, that I've ever trained, I've been asked, well, we did last year and we managed to do 200,000 tapes in 2 years at this television network. Bob, we're moving to a different location. How can we improve productivity? And my answer was, library science graduate students managing these migrations, because the #1 skill of somebody operating this system to have is not video engineering, is not compressionist, is not having anything to do with technology. It has to do with caring. The system is designed to be there for that operator, and if you teach them how to use it, then they're the ones that are going to make sure that this asset matches that database record, that things get QC'd on time, and that those people need assistance when a tape deck breaks or when something goes wrong technically. So they need to be able to get in touch with those people, but they are not necessarily the people who should be operating the system all the time. SAMMA Solo's interface used to be 1 template, 1 VTR, 1 unit. Nowadays, in this interface, you have 8 different migrations running at the same time. And whether that's operated robotically or manually, a single operator. We have situations where we have a single operator operating 32 channels manually at the same time. So one operator, 32 decks, because the tapes are long and they can continually keep up with both prep and migration. Just a little bit about the SAMMA analysis engine. The SAMMA analysis engine is a bespoke device that's been built for us and iterated over the years by a wonderful company in the UK, InSync. And these devices are, ready for engineering speak, they're frame synchronizing, time-based correcting, up converting, down converting, standards converting boxes that, in addition to processing audiovisual signals from sources to encoders, they're also feeding back to our system in real-time metadata about what's going on with the video signal. Is it black? Is there sound? Are there frozen frames? They're also monitoring VTR channel condition if VTRs have that. They're monitoring dropout if we're putting RF into them. And they're providing that feedback to our system where we can set up various thresholds that end migrations successfully or end migrations with problems. So we're looking at some of the interface of the SAMMA analysis engine. One of the powers of the SAMMA analysis engine is being able to take LTC timecode input and put that out synchronously in SDI. So analog tapes like U-matic or Beta SP that have their timecode in LTC, there aren't a lot of currently manufactured devices that take LTC input and output synchronous timecode in SDI. So that's one of the superpowers of the analysis engine. And that's a quick picture of the analysis engine and some of its features. SAMMA-I, what I was saying was that the analysis engine is feeding back metadata to the system, allowing us to make decisions about what's happening during a migration. One of the things that I hope is obvious from this interface is that, yes, you can fire up a template, choose one, and run a migration from a tape in a more or less hands-off. The template has all of the settings already loaded into it, created either by us or by your engineers to handle the migration of a tape. You can also use it in a completely bespoke method where you're opening that template, you're playing that tape, you're adjusting various proc amp and time-based correction so that you can manually migrate and make changes. SAMMA-I is letting you set up these various thresholds. On the output side of SAMMA, you have video file.mxf or .mov, proxy file.mp4, etc., but you also get SAMMA metadata file.xml. And in the SAMMA metadata, we have all of the metadata that you put into the system, whether that's customer metadata, whatever you want, barcode, file name, the history of that migration, the serial numbers of the VTRs that you were using, the operator, the date, but you also have metadata about every field of video that was processed through the analysis engine. You can open a viewer like this and view that metadata. So you can actually look at a print of this as a PDF or load that file into this viewer and see the audio and video levels, motion detection, dropouts, and things like that. It's an interesting way to quickly have a QC view on any migration that we did. Because if something is really normal, then I can look at that and I can say, oh, that's color bars, there's tone, there's good audio, there's normal video. If something looks very off, that's really easy to see as well. This metadata record also can become the file that gets imported downstream of SAMMA into the media asset management system. So it's a way to carry this metadata from the customer's database into the customer's MAM. Additionally, the SAMMA database is running under the hood. The SAMMA database is a live thing, and we have applications such as SAMMA Stats, which is a little web server that can show you in real time the entire history of the installation. How many tapes were migrated yesterday, by what system, by what operator, by what format, for how long, how many successes, how many failures, how many tapes were imported as records, how many tapes were prepped, how many tapes were migrated, because the facilities want to track not only the performance of all the systems, but also the performance of the shifts that are doing those migrations to see how much work is getting done. This is a screenshot of SAMMA integrating with Telestream Lightspeed live capture encoders. We are fully integrated with those. We also make a SAMMA encoder, which is powered by Meta software under the hood. And historically, we're agnostic. So if you have a specific interest in a specific encoder, we're more than happy to discuss controlling it. There we go, a quick little video of what an 88 channel system looks like. We were very lucky to present this system this year at the National Association of Broadcasters Convention in Las Vegas, and it won Project of the Year award. They are migrating 88 channels, 24 hours a day, and doing massive amounts of migration with a reasonably small staff. And one of the interesting things for me is that at the dawn of SAMMA, we were very focused on cultural institutions, libraries, archives, government archives. And even though we tried very hard to convince commercial enterprises that they should be migrating their collection, that was challenging. And I would say in the last 5 years, that's really changed. And I think it's changed because there were no trusted third parties that could take that content and do something with it. And only now I think we're seeing a lot of trusted third-party vendors that are similar to, say, a Getty Images that will take and enrich your metadata and then provide access for licensing that content. And that's why I think so many of these larger institutions that we've been trying for a long time to talk about preservation to and with are really starting to do that at a massive scale. It's keeping us very busy. I really just wanted to say, so I was going to be here and inviting you on stage to actually play with the SAMMA system and migrate a tape, which is what I have set up on our desk in the other room. So if you have any interest in actually seeing this, this is just a couple of quick slides about what this looks like at scale, what essentially 3 8-channel systems would look like, or 2 8-channel systems. But as you see in the other room, that's a 1-channel system. And we essentially deliver solutions either in 1, 2, 4, or 8 channels that can be combined in various ways to make something as large as 88 channels or something as small as just a single channel. So it really depends on how many tapes you have, how fast you want to go to migrate tapes. And I didn't really get into it, but GrayMeta also makes software and hardware that's used to QC digital media files. So if you have any questions about how we do that, we also have demos of that. Thank you very much.